There's an absolutely amazing story that broke over the weekend about HSBC. They've already been caught doing some hideous crimes in the past, but the plot actually thickens and it gets a lot worse. Quote, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists via the French newspaper Le Monde are reporting that documents reveal that global banking giant HSBC profited from doing business with arms dealers who channeled mortar bombs to child soldiers in Africa, bag men for third world dictators, traffickers in blood diamonds, and other international outlaws. So, stop and think about this. You have this gigantic powerhouse of an international bank that when anybody in the establishment thinks about it or any politician thinks about it, they just think, oh, yeah, I know the CEO from the cocktail circuit. I'm friends with the lobbyists from there. They're just a part of the society. They're a part of the community. That's how it is. Well, they, behind the scenes, again, I want to repeat it, they channeled mortar bombs to child soldiers in Africa. They did business with arms dealers who did that. They worked with bag men for third world dictators, and they worked with traffickers in blood diamonds. So you want to talk about a criminal? I mean, this bank is a criminal outlet. Now, it's not only that. Those are the leaks from this weekend, and this is the big news today. But don't forget, and this has been largely brushed under the rug. For the life of me, I don't understand why this isn't spoken about more. But there were leaks in 2012 about HSBC where we found out that they also did business with Mexican drug cartels, stay classy, the Iranian government when there, of course, are sanctions that don't allow them to do so. And if you think, well, maybe it was done through somebody else and they didn't even really know that they were doing it and yada, yada, yada. No, they had 25,000 transactions involving $19.4 billion with the Iranian government. So they knew what they were doing. They knew damn well what they were doing. They ended up doing business with Al-Qaeda. The funding for 9/11 was funneled through HSBC, through a surrogate in Saudi Arabia, our great beloved ally. There was a backlog of 17,000 unreviewed account alerts regarding potentially suspicious activity. And you ready for this? This is the big whopper of all the facts. They failed to track $60 trillion in suspicious activity. Yeah, they failed to track it. They're just that incompetent where they're like, oh, $16 trillion in movements back and forth and wire transfers and business dealings. Oh, yeah, no, I don't know. I was out to lunch. I went to McDonald's to get a number 6, and next thing I know, $60 trillion worth of business was done. What could I do? I had lunch, and then I was on my coffee break and had a cigarette, and boom, $60 trillion. No, you guys all knew damn well what was going on behind the scenes, and you didn't care. You didn't care because it made you money. Now, given all this information, I mean, they quite literally did business with all of the worst of the worst. Third world dictators, people dealing with blood diamonds, people who channeled weapons to child soldiers, Mexican drug cartels, Al-Qaeda, for Christ's sake. They did business dealings with all these people. They knew they were doing it. So, well, the government has all this information. We now have all this information, and we knew even in 2012 about what they did, right? So what happened? Did the CEO go to jail? Did the owners go to jail? Did the top shareholders go to jail? What happened? What happened? Did the people who approved the decisions go to jail? I mean, this is as criminal could possibly get. They got a fine of $1.9 billion. $60 trillion in suspicious activity, dealings with Al-Qaeda, the Iranian government, Mexican drug cartels, people dealing in blood diamonds, dictators, all illegal. They got a $1.9 billion fine, and that, by the way, that didn't even include, I'm sure when you dive into the details and you look through it, it's a lot like the fines that have been given to Bank of America and Citigroup, where they say, oh, we're going to give you $1 billion fine, and then they're like, by the way, it's tax deductible, and also half of it is going to be paid for by the state, and then this, and so I'm sure they didn't pay the full number, and there's ways around it, and there's ways that they cut into it. So no, there was no real accountability. There was nobody that actually went to jail. There's no real justice here. Why? Because these guys own the government. Right? Big banks, investment banks, hedge funds, all of Wall Street, multinational corporations, the super rich. When you give tremendous amounts of money to politicians and then they get in power, they're not just doing that because they like their stance on abortion. They're not doing that because they ideologically agree with them. No, the way that the real world works, the way that politics works, I give you money, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So here's all this money. Oh, look at that. There was a leak about how we worked with Al-Qaeda and child murderers and dictators and Mexican drug cartels, but just sweep it under the rug because we hooked you up, so now hook us up. Imagine if somehow a black dude from Harlem, if they found out that he was doing business dealings with Al-Qaeda, he was working with the Mexican drug cartel, he was working with third world dictators. He'd get like 97 life terms. Are you kidding me? 2 justice systems in America. It's clear.